This small dish can get you access to internet nearly anywhere. This is the Starlink Mini. It gets speeds over 250 megabits per second, uses very little power, meaning that you could power it off solar. That way you can get completely off the grid, yet still have internet in truly the middle of nowhere. And look how small this thing is. It's nearly the size of an iPad. But there are some downsides, so in this video I'm going to talk all about the performance, power efficiency, the pros and cons, the cost, and the service plans available for this guy, and how to actually set it up. And then I'll share whether I actually think it's worth it. So let's get into it. Can I just say the Starlink Mini has really completely changed how I work and travel, and the ability to be completely off the grid. In the last few weeks, I've had it here in Maine in the New England area, just kind of road tripping all around, and I've been boondocking the entire time completely off the grid, disconnected from electricity and internet, running off of primarily solar. And being able to use this truly in the middle of nowhere while having zero service has meant that I didn't have to rush to any coffee shops or libraries, as much as I still try and go to them just for, kind of visiting a coffee shop. I don't necessarily need to go, and that means that I can spend more time outdoors, more time, kind of being out there. I had a moose pass by my camper literally 15 yards out, and I had spent weeks looking for moose, and meanwhile, right in front of my camper. But all that's besides the point. Let's talk about the build and portability of the Starlink Mini. It's significantly lighter than the Gen 3 full-size standard Starlink dish. I did a full video comparing those two dishes. If that's something you're interested in checking out, maybe you can't decide between the two, the standard dish or the mini dish. It is a tough decision, and that's why I made a full video to help you actually decide which one you should go with. But after that video, I myself ended up going with the mini, and I'll talk about some of the reasons why. And one of the reasons why is just how small and portable the Mini is. It's easy to throw in my Jeep at any time. It's easy to take in here and really just take back and forth. Means that it's much more flexible and I could actually use it more, and getting more use out of it makes the cost of it much more worth it. I've also seen a lot of people mount it in very tiny spots, and that's just something that you won't be able to get with other dishes because the Mini is just so small. I even kind of tuck mine right in the cabinet there, and it's been totally fine. I've seen plenty of people mount it to their sunroofs in their car. In my Jeep, I kind of put it underneath the roof in the back. Hard to say, but it's like a very tiny small spot, and it works perfectly. In addition to that, it has the router built into it, and it isn't a Wi-Fi 6 router like the standard 3. The Wi-Fi 6 router comes with that. This is a Wi-Fi 5 router. It just makes the ability to move it around so much quicker because you've got everything in one compact body that you don't have to worry about lugging all of the wiring around or the separate router and dish. Because of that, the setup is also extremely easy with the Starlink Mini. You get the Starlink app, and it kind of helps you navigate the entire thing, but really it's as simple as a plug and play sort of situation. Plug into the back of the Starlink Mini, navigate in the app, connect to its Wi-Fi, and it walks you through this setup with very few simple steps. Then you just point it at the sky and it'll start looking for satellites, assuming there are some in your area. And that portability is really important. I, for the most part, leave the Starlink Mini in my camper. However, if I'm parked under trees, like for example, I'm parked under a ton of trees right now, then I might try and connect this to a power bank separately in an area where there's a little bit more access to the sky. And that ability to move it around so easily really makes all the difference. Another major aspect of the Starlink Mini, and the main reason that I ended up going with it, is the power efficiency. It runs at around 20 to 40 watts, and that is extremely impressive. The Starlink standard is about 4 times that, but really 20 to 40 watts is super low that I could run it on solar for many days. Of course, this depends on how large your power bank solution is, but for the most part, this has been easy to just leave running the entire time, even while being off the grid and running entirely on solar. And they also have a USB-C wire that you can connect to the Starlink Mini to connect to really small power banks like this one. As long as it kind of delivers the amount of power needed for this, which is so low that you can use a multitude of different power banks, just makes it all the more flexible. There's also a sleep mode that you could put this on a schedule. Let's say you're not using it for all hours of the day and you want to have a little bit better power efficiency out of it. You can set a sleep schedule for the Starlink Mini when you're not actually using it. That way you could save a little bit of extra power. However, there is still a power draw when it is in sleep mode. So how does the Starlink Mini perform in real world use? What are the speeds that you're going to get? What can you actually do with it? Can you stream Netflix? Can you do video calls? The answer is absolutely yes. This is rated up to 250 megabits per second, and I've seen it reach higher speeds as well, and on the uploads around 25 megabits per second, which is kind of on the lower side when compared with wired internet solutions, but that's kind of in a realm of its own. And I will say you do need a clear view of the sky and satellites, of course, in the area, so it is very dependent on that. And for example, in a tree coverage campsite like I'm in right now, not getting great speeds at all, or I'm getting great speeds but not consistent speeds because I guess the satellites are moving and not really getting through the trees as much as I would have hoped. But I could still send and receive messages and even stream Netflix if I wanted to easily, even in a tree covered area like this. I wouldn't be able to do video calls or phone calls in this scenario because when you're under tree coverage and the satellites are kind of moving between it, it can really download and upload when it's connecting to the satellites but not maintain that speed because it will disconnect, meaning that if you're on the phone, it'll disconnect kind of mid-call, as I had happen earlier. Working on the road the last month or so, I've transferred over a terabyte of files, just kind of downloading video files from my home server and also uploading as well to editors and things like that, and working on the road. A terabyte, that's over a thousand gigabytes. That's an extreme amount, hoping they don't ban me. But I am working with a lot of video footage of things that I'm filming out here, and I like to make sure that that's backed up to the cloud constantly. Another thing is the Starlink Mini does work through different surfaces. I'm not really sure of exactly what kind of surfaces, but I can at least attest for fiberglass. My camper is a fiberglass build. The roof on my Jeep is a fiberglass roof, so it's really easy to put it on the inside of the camper and it goes right through so easily while still maintaining the speeds. Same thing in my Jeep, and this was really important to me because although I was contemplating mounting the Starlink Standard on the roof of my camper permanently, I decided to go with the Starlink Mini on the inside. One, because to have it on the inside means that, no one's looking at it, even though it would be on the roof kind of hidden. It's not as easy if someone wanted to steal it or something like that. It also isn't affected by the weather elements, and it's so much easier having it inside overall. So the fact that it can go through like a fiberglass sort of thing so easily makes a huge difference. The only downside of having it inside the camper rather than mounted on the roof or something like that is the fact that it does generate some heat. So let's say it's the summertime here, which it's like almost 20 degrees here, definitely not a problem right now. It does generate a little bit of heat in the camper. Now it is, centralized very much in the corner, so I don't notice it, but it is there. And speaking of, if you're mounting this outside, which that's totally an option because it's rated for a multitude of different temperatures and weather conditions, it also has a snow melt feature. That way it doesn't affect the speed or performance. It'll melt the snow right off the dish. Maybe not if you've got like 10 feet of snow, that's a different story. And I definitely had a lot of rain on this road trip as well, and I didn't notice any speed differences in the rain. And I'm talking some extreme days of rain where I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy to be in the camper right now. But either way, it performed really well in the rain as well. So we talked about the router being built into that, and how big of a distance could you get with this router built in? Well, easily your immediate campsite, and probably at least one campsite to your left or right. I feel like this is maybe 50 feet, 15, 16, and a 42 millisecond delay. So let's try 100 feet, give or take, because I don't know what 100 feet truly is. 176 over 6. That's kind of insane, actually. So it covers a really massive surface area, in my opinion, and I would have no problem kind of going around here. In fact, some of my friends I know are going to try once they get here tonight to connect my Starlink Mini. I'm going to say no. Maybe I'll share it with them in exchange for a beer or something like that. Who's to say? But that Starlink subscription is not cheap, and we'll talk about that in just one second. So the built-in router, in my opinion, is more than good enough for a decent sized space. And if you really wanted to take advantage of the Starlink Mini's full speed, I would recommend hardwiring in using an Ethernet cable. There's an Ethernet port at the back of the Starlink Mini that you can connect to, and that'll just give you the full speeds out of this and bypass the Wi-Fi router entirely. You can also upgrade the Wi-Fi router to the Starlink Wi-Fi 6 router or a third-party router as well. But even while I'm driving, if I'm like playing music or anything like that using the navigation system, I can easily connect to the Starlink while it's in the camper from my Jeep without any problem. So let's talk about the cost of this setup and also some of the service plans. So this one right now, the Starlink Mini is around $400 to $500. I'm pretty sure I spent $500 to buy this thing, which is pretty expensive, especially when you consider the fact that the Starlink Standard, which is rated for higher speeds, is running for about $175 right now. And that is a very good deal for that dish. And with these service plans, they do change very frequently. And if you want to use it in motion, then you would have to opt for one of the Roam service plans. And I believe right now there's only two options of those, a 50 gigabyte version, which is $50 a month, or the Roam Unlimited version, which is $165 a month, which, as you could probably guess with the amount of footage that I've been transferring, is the one that I've been going with. It's been all the rage that a couple of months ago, Starlink also discontinued the pause service. So automatically you have to do a $5 plan instead of pausing your service entirely for the Starlink. But it's actually kind of cool because that gives you unlimited, very, very, very low speed data, enough to send emergency messages and things like that. So you can kind of keep it connected regardless, but it would be $5 a month for that standby mode. The residential modes are questionable. In some areas, it's been reported that they're accessible on the Starlink Mini, I guess in certain regions. So I can't speak to that entirely, but I could say that it's not accessible where I'm currently at. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of the Starlink Mini. And of course, the size has to be the biggest pro about the Mini. In addition to that, the power efficiency. You can run this for so long without having to worry about it too much, especially if you've got a really robust solar system built out. The fact that the Wi-Fi router is built in with the dish itself means that it's all the more portable, and the low power efficiency means that you can plug it into your everyday power bank for the most part. Also, the fact that it is so small means that you can throw it in a backpack as if you would with a laptop and take it just about anywhere. And of course, the speeds of this dish are so impressive. That's really the biggest pro as well. There are quite a few cons though. There are some negatives about this dish, I have to say. And, you know, the expense of it is definitely the biggest one. This dish is much more expensive than the Starlink standard dish, which is rated for higher speeds, which is odd. So you're really just paying for the convenience of the portable and compact size. And some of my other negatives are really just Starlink dish general negatives, I have to say. But things like there's no direct power off mode in the Starlink app, and I wish that it had something like that rather than having to enable the sleep mode to lower the power consumption or having to hard cut the power on the Starlink Mini. Having that ability in the app, I think, would make a huge difference. Another negative is I would be willing to buy the Starlink Standard in addition to this to have a hard mounted version of the dish in this camper and take this more portably if the service plans were transferable between the two. Because I'm not going to have two separate Starlink plans. That's just exorbitantly expensive, and I wouldn't do that. But if I was able to switch between the two, that would be a lot better. And there's no scenario where I'd be using both at the same time. So I think that would be an awesome option if you could kind of transfer the service plans between the two. Another negative has to be what I'm dealing with right now, is being completely under the trees, which, you know, I love, but I only get internet like every once in a while, I guess, when a satellite passes by or whatnot, which is perfect because it's enough to send or receive messages and kind of coordinate with friends when they're arriving. Another negative is it takes quite a bit of time if you hard power this guy off to reconnect to satellites. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're thinking you're just going to plug it in, it's going to connect right away, it does take quite a bit of time. But that's about it for the negatives of the Starlink Mini. Honestly, I've been using it for about 4 to 6 months now, and I've been loving it because it's really brought about quite a bit of freedom and being able to be outdoors more. And yes, are you connected all the time? Yes, for the most part you are, but it's really easy to just turn the thing off if maybe you want to be completely disconnected, not have service, which I totally understand. If you're interested in picking up a Starlink Mini, I will have a link in the description down below, which will actually grant you and myself both a free month of the service plan, so I'd greatly appreciate that. Well, certainly the Starlink Mini isn't completely perfect, and honestly it's still relatively expensive. Even with that said, it's helped me completely get off the grid here and kind of be out in the field and transfer footage still be able to work. So for that, I'm definitely appreciative. But let me know down in the comments below if you have the Starlink Mini. What's your experience been with this dish? If you have any questions on this setup, let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you out there on the road.